The Rifleman portrayed the Wild West through a powerful father-son bond and heart-pounding shootouts, becoming a lasting memory for generations of viewers. But behind the spotlight, many of the show's talented cast members left this world under heartbreaking circumstances, from devastating accidents to silent battles with illness. Let's revisit their journeys and honor the stars who made the Rifleman a legend, leaving behind an unforgettable mark in the hearts of fans. Chuck Connors as Lucas McCain. Kevin Joseph Chuck Connors was born on April 10, 1921, in Brooklyn, New York. When he was 37 years old, he stepped into the role of Lucas McCain, the brave sharpshooter and tough widower in the legendary series The Rifleman, 1958 to 1963. This role turned him into a symbol of American television at the time, portraying an ideal father figure whose rifle was always ready to defend justice. But behind the bright lights of the set lay a life filled with inner conflict, contradiction, and loneliness. The toughness he displayed on screen seemed to reflect Connors' real-life personality, hot-tempered, controlling, and distant. Throughout his 40-year career, he often clashed with directors and co-stars due to sudden outbursts and unreasonable demands. Several projects collapsed because of his stubbornness. Rumors in the industry suggested that Connors was quietly blacklisted by some studios, a silent punishment reserved for those deemed too difficult to work with. His personal life fared no better. 3 marriages ended in heartbreak, leaving deep scars within the family. His first marriage, which lasted more than 2 decades and seemed stable, ended in bitter accusations. Some of Connors' children publicly criticized him as a domineering father, often verbally abusive, creating a toxic, hostile household. In his later years, the same children who once stood by his side gradually drifted away, leaving behind a void that was never filled. In his final years, Connors battled a long and grueling fight with lung cancer, an illness that mirrored the loneliness haunting him for years. The disease didn't just destroy his body, it stripped him of his ability to work, confining him to his mansion in California. Once a symbol of success, it had become a cold, isolating fortress. At the time of his death, Connors' net worth was estimated at around $5 million, including homes in California and Arizona, luxury vehicles, and royalties from The Rifleman and several films. Yet that wealth did little to ease the bitterness when he passed away on November 10, 1992, in Los Angeles, at the age of 71. Johnny Crawford as Mark McCain. Johnny Crawford was born on March 26, 1946, in Los Angeles. When he was 12 years old, the slender boy with sharp eyes took on the role of Mark McCain, the loyal, sometimes impulsive son of Lucas McCain, in the classic series The Rifleman, 1958 to 1963. That role not only earned Johnny an Emmy nomination at age 13, but also made him a national television icon, a child prodigy adored across America. But the very spotlight that brought him fame also swallowed up his childhood, youth, and future. When The Rifleman ended, Johnny, now entering adulthood, faced a harsh truth. Hollywood had no place for a former child star. The same directors who once courted him now turned their backs. Major roles never came, and his music career produced only a few fleeting hits. Trapped between his image as Little Mark and an entertainment world changing rapidly, Johnny sank into a deep sense of displacement. The pressures of unemployment and fading fame led him into depression, and according to close friends, he at times resorted to substance abuse as a temporary escape. His personal life didn't fare much better. After marrying his high school sweetheart Charlotte Samko in 1995, Johnny had hoped to find peace after the storm. But a declining career, fragile mental health, and financial instability strained their marriage. He rarely appeared in public, withdrawing from the media and living a quiet, solitary life. In his final years, Crawford led a small vintage-style band performing at private events. Despite his passion, those rare shows did little to revive his career or finances. At the time of his death, His net worth was estimated at under $1 million, mostly residual royalties and modest personal belongings. In 2019, tragedy struck when Johnny was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease. Without the financial means to afford treatment, he was placed in a nursing home, relying on the support of friends and fan-driven fundraisers. In 2021, he contracted COVID-19, followed by pneumonia, which accelerated the progression of Alzheimer's. On April 29, 2021, Johnny Crawford passed away at the age of 75, quietly, sadly, in a care home where even memory had long since left him. Paul Fix, as Marshal Micah Torrance. Paul Fix, born Peter Paul Fix, was born on March 13, 1901, in Dobbs Ferry, New York. When he was 57 years old, he took on the role of Marshal Micah Torrance, the rugged but dependable sheriff in The Rifleman, 1958 to 1963. His character became a symbol of law and order amid the chaos of the Wild West, a loyal companion to Lucas and Mark McCain. But behind that stoic face was the life of a man consumed by the very world he had dedicated his entire career to. Fix had served as a sailor in World War I and had gone AWOL twice just to re-enlist. Those unstable early years forged an unshakable resolve in him. Yet, despite appearing in nearly 350 films and television shows, Fix was typecast in supporting roles, sheriffs, lawyers, or aging fathers. As Hollywood entered a new era, Fix faded into the background. Outdated character roles fell out of favor, and he suffered long periods of unemployment, which left him bitter and withdrawn. He rarely gave interviews, avoided crowds, and accepted only minor parts to get by. The savings he had accumulated, around $2 million, were gradually depleted by medical expenses, caregiving costs, and the toll of aging without work. The home in Los Angeles where he lived quietly became his last remaining refuge. Fix's personal life fared no better. After divorcing his first wife in 1945, he remarried Beverly Pratt, who passed away in 1979. Her death left him devastated. Although he had a daughter and several grandchildren, Fix remained emotionally distant, almost estranged from them. He withdrew entirely from public life, skipped events, and accepted no acting roles after 1981. Chronic kidney disease slowly drained his strength. On October 14, 1983, Paul Fix passed away at the age of 82 in Los Angeles, quietly, just as he had lived. He was buried beside his second wife at Woodlawn Cemetery in Santa Monica. Bill Quinn as Frank Sweeney. Bill Quinn was born on May 6, 1912 in New York. When he was 46 years old, he took on the role of Frank Sweeney, the friendly bartender and beloved resident of North Fork, in The Rifleman, 1958 to 1963. Quinn brought warmth and familiarity to the Western town, helping define its spirit. But off-screen, his life was marked by fractures, repression, and regret. Quinn was soon labeled as difficult, often clashing with directors, which cost him major opportunities. His career spanned 7 decades, yet most of his roles were nameless and unremarkable. By the 1970s, Hollywood producers had largely forgotten him. Each return to screen was reduced to fleeting background appearances. As he aged, he appeared less and less, quietly slipping away from the very industry he had helped shape. Professional stress took a toll on his family life. His marriage to Mary Catherine Roden, once admired in Hollywood circles, began to fracture under prolonged tension. At one point, tabloids reported alleged affairs and financial disputes, pushing the family into crisis. His relationship with his 3 daughters soured after inheritance conflicts, with one of them even filing to revoke Quinn's financial control over family assets, a heavy blow to a father who had once carried everything on his shoulders. Bill Quinn died on April 29, 1994, just a week before his 82nd birthday. The cause of death was listed as natural, but it followed years of declining health, At the time of his passing, his estate was valued at approximately $1 million, mostly from the house and residual royalties. He was laid to rest at San Fernando Mission Cemetery, ending a life spent in the spotlight, but closing in silence. Hope Summers as Hattie Denton. Hope Summers was born on June 7, 1902, in Mattoon, Illinois. When she was 62 years old, she joined the Rifleman as Hattie Denton, the kind, attentive postmistress of North Fork. Her character brought warmth and reassurance to the series, portraying a trustworthy, grounded woman in a dry and chaotic West. But the real life of Summers was a quiet battle against unnamed wounds. Though beloved by fans for her 36 appearances in The Andy Griffith Show, her career remained confined to small, underdeveloped roles. Colleagues noted that Summers often seemed sad, withdrawn, and avoided socializing within the industry. After turning 60, she struggled to secure recurring roles. Her declining health disrupted her work, and she was frequently cast as eccentric, elderly characters, mirroring her own condition. In her personal life, her marriage to Claude Witherell had once been her emotional anchor, but over the years, the relationship crumbled under accusations of infidelity and prolonged family strife. Following their divorce, she lived alone, rarely appearing with her children and virtually cutting ties with her old colleagues. Many said she suffered from chronic depression, unable to find joy in either work or life. In her final years, Summers relied on income from voicing Mrs. Butterworth in commercials. On June 22, 1979, Hope Summers died of heart failure at the age of 77. She passed quietly, no grand funeral, no widespread media coverage. Her net worth at the time was estimated at around $500,000, mostly from a modest apartment and advertising earnings. Joe Higgins as Niels Swenson. Joseph H. Higgins was born on July 12, 1925, in Logansport, Indiana. When he was 35 years old, he took on the role of Niels Swenson, the gentle, soft-spoken blacksmith in The Rifleman, 1960 to 1963. His sturdy frame and warm, resonant voice made the character a memorable fixture of the North Fork community. But behind the camera, Higgins was a man deeply scarred. Well-educated and holding a Ph.D. in philosophy, Higgins started his television career with great promise. However, his worsening alcoholism damaged his professional image. Public drunkenness, loud arguments with producers, and erratic behavior on set led to a decline in opportunities. By the mid-1970s, he was mostly cast in small, repetitive roles, thanks only to his familiar face from TV commercials. Off-set, Higgins's life was turbulent. Multiple marriages ended in accusations of infidelity and abuse. His relationships with his children deteriorated due to financial lawsuits, leaving him virtually isolated in his later years. Although he once won a Clio Award for a Dodge ad and served as a spokesperson for General Electric, his reputation never recovered from long-standing scandals and personal instability. Joe Higgins died of a heart attack on June 15, 1998, at the age of 72. His estate was estimated at around $1 million, mostly from commercials and television roles, but had been significantly eroded by legal fees and medical expenses. Patricia Blair as Lou Mallory. Patricia Blair, born Patsy Lou Blake, was born on March 15, 1933, in Fort Worth, Texas. When she was 29 years old, she made her mark on The Rifleman, 1962 to 1963, as Lou Mallory, the beautiful and strong-willed businesswoman who brought fresh energy to North Fork during the show's final season. With sharp looks and commanding presence, Blair was seen as a potential new female icon in westerns. But behind the spotlight lay simmering tensions that quickly derailed her career. A perfectionist, Blair often demanded deeper, more complex roles, which led to fierce clashes with producers. At one point, she refused to sign a contract unless young co-star Veronica Cartwright was removed from Daniel Boone, fearing it would age her image. These demands sparked rumors that she was blacklisted in Hollywood. After the series ended in 1970, her career stalled, with only minor roles and scattered commercials. Once a bright TV star, Blair was gradually forgotten in the wave of new programming. Her personal life was equally tumultuous. Her marriage to businessman Martin Kolber ended in 1993 amid financial disputes and allegations of emotional abuse. Rumors circulated about custody battles and psychological breakdowns. Some former co-stars revealed that Blair relied on tranquilizers to regulate her emotions. Patricia Blair died on September 9, 2013, at her home in North Wildwood, New Jersey, after a long battle with breast cancer. She was 80 years old. Her net worth at the time of death was estimated at $1.5 million, largely from past successes, but depleted by legal costs, treatment expenses, and personal losses. Joan Taylor as Millie Scott. Joan Taylor, born Rosemary Emma, was born on August 18, 1929, in Geneva, Illinois. When she was 31 years old, she joined the Rifleman, 1960 to 1962, as Millie Scott, the charming storekeeper and the only woman who truly softened Lucas McCain's heart. Taylor quickly became a fan favorite. But once the stage lights dimmed, her life took a path marked more by sorrow than applause. Paramount once had high hopes for Taylor's stardom, even insuring her legs for $100,000, a sign of the early attention she received. But after the Rifleman, her career began to slow, partly by choice, as she stepped away to raise her family, and partly due to rumors about her volatile temperament and alleged substance abuse. Producers became wary, and acting opportunities dried up. In her private life, Taylor suffered deeply. Her first marriage to Leonard Freeman, the creator of Hawaii Five-0, was professionally fruitful but personally stormy. After Freeman's death in 1974, she took over the production company under the name Rose Freeman. Yet financial strain, legal disputes, and growing distance from her 3 daughters left her emotionally drained. Her second marriage to director Walter Grauman collapsed after just 4 years, leaving her once again alone in her Santa Monica estate. Joan Taylor died of natural causes on March 4, 2012, at the age of 82. Her net worth was approximately $2 million, mainly from her Santa Monica home and intellectual property related to Hawaii Five-0. A woman once hailed as the Western Muse, she ultimately ended her life in silence, carrying a solitude no one ever saw on screen. Ralph Moody as Doc Burridge. Ralph Moody was born on November 5, 1886. When he was 74 years old, he portrayed Doc Burridge, the kind and seasoned town doctor in The Rifleman, 1960 to 1963. With his calm voice and wise gaze, Moody convinced viewers he was truly the medical soul of North Fork. But his real-life journey was a quiet one, filled with unseen shadows. Before finding his way to television, Moody spent more than 4 decades touring with theater troupes and working in radio. However, when he transitioned to film late in life, he unexpectedly became entangled in a serious professional scandal. An unverified accusation involving medical misconduct related to a role led to distancing from colleagues and hesitancy from producers. Though never substantiated, the damage to his reputation was lasting, and acting roles began to dry up. In his private life, Moody endured multiple failed marriages amid accusations of emotional abuse and excessive control. He was estranged from his children and lived in isolation in his final years. Former friends drifted away, and without television appearances, he faded into obscurity. Ralph Moody died of natural causes on September 6, 1971, at the age of 84. His net worth at the time of death was believed to be under $500,000, mainly from residuals and modest personal possessions. Harlan Warde as John Hamilton. Harlan Warde, born Harlan Warde Lufkin, was born on November 6, 1917. When he was 40 years old, he took on the role of John Hamilton, the calm, kind-hearted banker of North Fork in The Rifleman, 1958 to 1963. Appearing in 18 episodes, Warde not only portrayed reliability and maturity, but also added emotional depth to the fabric of the Western frontier. Still, beyond the screen, his real life was filled with legal troubles and painful family drama. At the peak of his career, with hundreds of film and television roles, Warde suddenly became embroiled in a financial embezzlement scandal involving a small production company he had invested in with several partners. Though never criminally charged, the incident cast suspicion over him and damaged his reputation. Studios quietly ended contracts, and roles stopped coming. Hollywood's silence grew louder. Once hailed as the golden supporting actor of Westerns, Warde began a steep slide into obscurity. His personal life was equally fractured. All three of his marriages ended in divorce, marked by accusations of emotional neglect and abuse. Prolonged custody battles strained his relationships with his children, leading to alienation. Family members described him as moody and obsessed with the career he had lost, retreating from social life in his final years. Harlan Warde died on March 13, 1980, at the age of 62. The cause of death was not publicly disclosed, but was due to a non-communicable illness. He was buried at Los Angeles National Cemetery. His net worth at the time of death was estimated at under $750,000, significantly reduced by legal fees and the fallout from a turbulent life. Edgar Buchanan as Doc J. Burridge. Edgar Buchanan was born on March 20, 1903, in Missouri, and was originally a dentist before turning to acting at age 36. When he was 56 years old, he played Doc J. Burridge in The Rifleman, 1959, appearing in 5 episodes as the calm, friendly, and respected town doctor. That image followed him through roles like Uncle Joe Carson in Petticoat Junction and many comedic films. But behind the familiar smile and snowy beard lay hidden tensions never made public. On set, younger actors described Buchanan as domineering and manipulative. Rumors circulated that he pressured co-stars to change their lines to suit his preferences and blocked newer actors from having moments to shine. These alleged power plays were said to be the reason some cast members left productions midway. Though no concrete evidence surfaced, his controlling presence left a lasting discomfort among colleagues. Off-camera, his marriage to Dr. Millie Spence was clouded by whispers of multiple affairs with female co-stars. Though never confirmed, the entertainment industry buzzed with gossip about on-set romances, which eventually tainted his public image. After Buchanan died in 1979 from a stroke and pneumonia, his family became embroiled in legal disputes over his will. Leaked documents revealed numerous undeclared personal debts, which significantly reduced his estimated $2 million estate, including real estate and royalties. Edgar Buchanan was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Hollywood Hills, resting among many major stars. Dabbs Greer as Finey. Dabbs Greer was born in 1917 in Missouri and became known for over 700 appearances in film and television, most notably as Reverend Alden in Little House on the Prairie and as the elderly Paul Edgecombe in The Green Mile, 1999. When he was 42 years old, he played Finey, a North Fork townsperson in The Rifleman, 1959, bringing his trademark warmth and simplicity to the role. Greer's career spanned more than 6 decades, and he once said, "Every character actor in their own small way is a lead." Though more stable and successful than many of his contemporaries, Greer's private life was far from peaceful. He silently struggled with depression for years, but never pursued full treatment. A deep sense of loneliness haunted him, particularly in his later years. He never married or publicly acknowledged any romantic relationships, though rumors swirled about secret affairs, including some allegedly involving married individuals, which strained his social circle and made him increasingly reclusive. In his final years, Greer lived in relative isolation in Pasadena. Former friends recalled how he declined invitations, avoided gatherings, and often cited health as an excuse to withdraw. In truth, he suffered from chronic heart disease and kidney failure, the two conditions that ultimately led to his death in 2007 at the age of 90. Dabbs Greer had a net worth of approximately $2 million, mostly from modest real estate holdings and residuals. He was buried in Peace Valley Cemetery in his home state of Missouri, concluding the life of a truly great character actor, Jack Elam as Gates. There are some faces on screen that, with just a glance, become unforgettable, and Jack Elam was one of them. With his famously crooked eye, caused by a childhood brawl, Elam became the quintessential villain across dozens of westerns throughout the 1950s and 60s. Born on November 13, 1920, in a small town in Arizona, he served in the U.S. Navy and worked as an accountant in Hollywood before turning to acting. When he was 38 years old, Jack Elam appeared in The Rifleman as Gates, a quiet but dangerous antagonist, embodying the style that defined his early career. He had been blind in his left eye since age 11, but that distinctive trait became his signature. Fox mogul Darryl Zanuck once said bluntly, "Don't fix that eye. It's part of the mystery." Elam took the advice, and that lopsided stare launched a career that spanned nearly 6 decades. Behind the scenes, though, Elam's life was filled with inner turmoil. While he was famous for his villain roles, he resented being typecast as the eternal bad guy. Even after pivoting to comedy in The Night of the Grizzly, 1966, and Support Your Local Sheriff, 1969, he still felt boxed in and denied the chance to show his full range. His increasing alcohol use and temper outbursts backstage led some studios to unofficially blacklist him. In his personal life, Jack Elam faced many struggles. His first marriage, which began in 1937, ended with his wife's death from colon cancer in 1961, a loss that deepened his loneliness and alcoholism. Though he remarried shortly after to Margaret Jennison and remained with her for 42 years, rumors persisted about infidelity and emotional distance from his children, leading to strained family ties. In his final years, Elam lived quietly in Ashland, Oregon, relying mostly on film royalties and savings. He passed away on October 20, 2003, at age 82 due to congestive heart failure. He left behind an estate worth about $2 million, including a home in California and a cherished collection of Western memorabilia, as well as the immortal image of a villain that everyone loved. Richard Anderson as Duke Jennings. Richard Anderson, born August 8, 1926, was best known as Oscar Goldman in the sci-fi series The $6 Million Man. But before that, when he was 33 years old, he left his mark as Duke Jennings in The Rifleman, 1959. The role of Duke, a suave but calculating man, was a stepping stone to the powerful screen persona Anderson carried throughout his career. Behind his polished exterior and a thriving career that included hundreds of TV appearances, Anderson's life held secrets few knew. He was one of the most sought-after television stars of the 1970s, earning enough to amass an estimated $5 million by the end of his life. But fame came with temptation. Anderson was rumored to be a compulsive gambler, often seen at luxury casinos in Las Vegas. Silent financial losses forced him to liquidate assets, sell royalty rights, and nearly led to bankruptcy. His personal life was equally turbulent. Anderson endured 2 difficult divorces, most notably from Catherine Thalberg, daughter of Hollywood titan Irving Thalberg. That split not only cost him a fortune, but also revealed troubling aspects of his private life. Some sources claimed he manipulated contracts and made things difficult for younger actors, leaving him respected, but also feared within the industry. Richard Anderson passed away on August 31, 2017, in Beverly Hills, California, at age 91. The cause of death was reported as natural. K.T. Stevens as Emma Lincoln. K.T. Stevens was born on July 20, 1919, in Hollywood, the daughter of legendary director Sam Wood. But instead of relying on her father's legacy, she chose to forge her own path, changing her name to K.T. to establish independence. When she was 41 years old, she appeared in The Rifleman as Emma Lincoln, a quiet, composed character with emotional depth that mirrored her off-screen persona. Stevens had once enjoyed a flourishing career, starring opposite major names like Joan Crawford, Yul Brynner, and Edward G. Robinson. But in the 1960s, a storm hit. She was rumored to have communist sympathies during the Red Scare. Though never confirmed, the suspicion alone was enough to get her blacklisted by studios. Her career stalled, and she was relegated to occasional supporting roles. Financial strain mounted, and by the time of her death, her net worth was estimated at under $1 million. Her personal life was no less troubled. Her marriage to actor Hugh Marlowe, once thought to be ideal, ended in 1968 under allegations of emotional and financial abuse. Her relationship with her children cooled, and Stevens spent her later years isolated, regarded by many as cold and distant. K.T. Stevens died on June 13, 1994, at her home in Brentwood, Los Angeles, after a long battle with lung cancer. She was 74 years old and passed away quietly. The stars of The Rifleman left behind a lasting legacy, even as their real lives were filled with tragedy and turmoil. Which actor's story moved you the most? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to explore more about the legends of the silver screen.